Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to replace the charging port on your Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Alright, so let's get started. First thing we need to do to take apart the Note 8 is we need to remove the back cover. Okay, so first off we're going to have to remove the back cover. We're going to do this by giving it heat. You can do this with either a hair dryer, staying around 4 inches away from the phone and moving it around the hair dryer, or a heat gun until you touch it and it's hot enough that it burns just a little bit, not too much. You want to be careful you don't overheat it because it could internally damage the motherboard of the phone or the parts or the screen as well. Okay, so you can use a hair dryer, a heat gun, and go around it. You can also lay the phone flat on a hot plate, which is what I use. So I'm going to be putting it on the hot plate over here. It's going to be about 115 degrees Celsius. All right, we're just going to place it on there. Okay, and we're going to leave it on there for about a minute or two at about 100 degrees Celsius to 110 degrees Celsius. Okay, and then once it's hot enough that you touch it and it burns just a little bit, then we'll begin to remove the back cover. Okay, so I'll continue recording once it's hot enough. Okay, so very quickly before we begin to separate the back cover, I'm going to be using some gloves because the phone will be pretty hot. Okay, so I'll be using some gloves for help. We're going to be using a suction cup to stick it on the back cover. And we're going to be using either something very thin, like a business card like this, or a prying tool, as long as it's thin. Plastic preferred, because if it's metal, it could damage the inside of the phone, and it can also damage the color on the back cover. Okay, so once the phone is hot enough, we're going to hold it, touch it to make sure it burns just a little bit. Okay, it feels like it's pretty hot now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the suction cup and place it on the back here. Okay, and we're going to pull on it slightly on the back here to try and get an opening. All right, if you feel that the heat starts going away a little bit, place it back on the hot plate for another couple seconds or a minute. There you go, I see an opening right there. Okay, so we're gonna have to stick the prying tool in there. We're gonna have to open it up. Right there, got it in there. All right, once you have it in there, we're gonna just go around it. Okay, it helps to stick something else in there as well. Okay, maybe like a business card. Okay, please remember, if you feel that you need to give it more heat, put it back on the hot plate. Okay, I'm gonna remove this now, the suction cup. Let's put it back on the hot plate to give it some more heat to loosen the adhesive. And usually I'm not this careful with removing the back cover, but since this is a Note 8 and I really don't want to damage the back cover, you have to be extra careful. So take your time doing it so that you don't break it. Alright, so just remember, keep applying heat if you feel like the adhesive is loosening up. You can also fold the business card in half to make it stronger. Okay, let's fold this one in half too. Alright, so I heated it up just a little bit more so that we can finish the top part of the phone here. Alright, so there we go, the back cover came off. Let's put these here to the side. Okay, so that's why we have to be very careful, because the cable that connects the fingerprint scanner actually connects right there. Okay, so we're gonna have to disconnect that cable. You gotta be careful when you're going around it with the tool so that you don't rip it. I'm gonna disconnect it. It's kind of hard to see. We have to be careful with that cable. Okay, so let's remove the cable. I'm gonna disconnect it. There you go. The next step is we're gonna need to be removing all of the Phillips head screws that are holding on the back frame here of the phone. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that now. All right, so once you have all of the Phillips head screws removed, we can now go ahead and begin to pry up on the back pieces of the housing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the bottom one. You can just pry it up with your finger. It comes off pretty easy. Be careful with this wireless charging pad here. Okay, it's going to be held down with some adhesive. So pull it out. Okay, and then get under this one right here to lift it up. And it comes out completely. There we go. Okay, next thing, let's get this out of the way. We're gonna need to remove the S pin. And actually you could do this first thing as well. Okay, and we're also going to remove the SIM card tray. Okay, so next thing we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to disconnect all of the flex cables. So here we have the LCD cable. Let's disconnect that one. Let's disconnect this cable right here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and disconnect this small cable here, which is for the power button. Let's go ahead and disconnect the cameras, the front camera. And the second front camera. This phone has 2 front cameras and 2 rear cameras. Let's go ahead and disconnect this over here. Okay, and let's go ahead and disconnect the antennas down here. And this blue antenna. All right, so we're gonna be removing Phillips head screw up here. All right, so once you have all of the flex cables and antennas disconnected and the screw removed, we can go ahead and lift up on the motherboard. You might need to wiggle it a little bit to be released from any clips that are holding it down. Okay, it's still going to be connected down here to the charging port. So we're going to want to disconnect it carefully from the charging port. That's the cable right there. That's connected to the charging port. So let's go ahead and unplug it. Okay, there we go. And then here we have the Note 8 motherboard, main board. All right, let's put that to the side. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the charging port now. We're gonna have some screws down here we're gonna need to remove. Okay, once you have those 4 screws removed, we're gonna disconnect this small cable here, which is for the headphone jack, and pull the cable back just a little bit like that. Okay, next thing we're gonna need to do is we're going to pull up on the charging port flex cable, just gently pull up on it. Okay, there you go, it's coming out. And then we're gonna need to give it some pressure down here to lift it up on this side. There we go. And the charging port completely comes out, so it could be replaced. Looks like all the new models Samsungs are coming out with, the Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, S7, S7 Edge. Looks like the charging ports are replaceable now, because before they would have the buttons loop over into the front here, but since those aren't needed anymore in these new models, the charging ports can be replaced again. All right, so let's put that to the side. So if you're going to change your charging port, you would just get your new charging port piece and place it back in. All right, so squeeze the charging port so it falls back in its place. Okay, so make sure it goes down where it's supposed to go. Okay, and then once it is, we're going to go ahead and place the 4 screws back on. Okay, once you have those back on, let's go ahead and place the motherboard back on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and connect the charging port first. Let's move the antennas back. Let's go ahead again. Let's make sure that the charging port is connected right. There we go. Okay, then we can place it down. Okay, let's move all the flex cables out of the way. The camera's up here. The battery cable, let's pull it back so that the motherboard goes in. Okay, let's give it a little bit of pressure downwards to make sure everything goes back in its place. And let's go ahead and connect the flex cables now. All right, and now let's go ahead and connect the antennas back on. Okay, and then before we put it back together, let's remember to put this black screw in. Okay, so once you're ready, let's go ahead and place the back pieces of the housing back on. Let's put in the top one first. So just squeeze it down. Make sure there's no screws or anything stuck to it so that it fits in correctly. There we go. Let's do the bottom one now. Again, just give it pressure on all the sides. Make sure it goes back in correctly. There we go. Okay, and then once the back pieces of the cover are back on, let's go ahead and place all the Phillips head screws back in. All right, so once all of the Phillips head screws are back in, okay, so we're ready to install the back cover back on. Okay, once you're ready to install your back cover back on, first thing we're going to need to do is connect the cable here for the fingerprint scanner in the back. Okay, with something thin like this, you're going to hold it down. Okay, and you're going to give it some pressure until it connects. Okay, so as you can see there, it connected. Oh, and it disconnected. Okay, you can even do it with your finger as well. I mean, I just did it with my finger. Just make sure you don't pull it. I felt it connect. Okay, once you feel it's completely connected, then we're ready to close the back cover, lay it on there, position it correctly on top of the phone. All right, so once the cable is connected here, just position the back cover right on top of the phone where you want it to make sure it falls on correctly. Okay, and on the bottom here as well. Okay, and then give it pressure around all the sides so that it can close back up. Remember to reuse the old adhesive. If you don't have the old adhesive, place new adhesive around all the corners so that it will give it that sealing power that they have. Okay, so just go around all the sides, give it some pressure. Okay, and then stick the stylus back in. Place the SIM card tray back on. And power it on so we can test it. Alright, so that was just a quick video on how to replace the charging port on your Samsung Galaxy Note 8. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Till next time, guys. Peace.